My cheating wife froze. When I walked into the party with her lover's wife on my arm, I stayed calm, said nothing, and watched her whole lie collapse in real time. Sup, Reddit. Quick background before I get into it. I, 36 male, met Anya, 34 female, 5 years ago at a hardware store, arguing about which drill bit works best. The manager had to separate us because we were blocking the aisle debating power tools for 20 minutes. The funny thing is that she gave me her number and we started dating. Then we got married 2 years later at a courthouse, because neither of us wanted the whole big wedding circus. Fast forward to last Tuesday, and I'm realizing I married someone who became a completely different person. I'm sitting in our living room trying to tell Anya about this absolute disaster that went down at the freight yard. Nothing crazy, just one of those work stories where everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and I figured my wife might actually give a dang. I work as a regional supervisor for a shipping company now, which means I spend my days making sure trucks don't vanish into thin air and drivers don't mysteriously forget how to read a GPS. She's standing by the kitchen counter scrolling through her phone with this look on her face like I just asked her to explain quantum physics. Then she drops it on me. Honestly, Cameron, if I have to pretend to care about your boring job one more time, I might actually lose my mind. No smile. No laugh to soften the blow. Just straight venom. I stopped mid-sentence. Set down my coffee. Looked at her directly. Excuse me? She didn't even look up from her phone. You heard me. Your job is boring. These stories are boring. I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Here's the thing. I'd been pulling 70-hour weeks for the past 6 months. 70. While she bounced between jobs every time someone looked at her wrong or asked her to actually show up on time. Our townhouse payment? Me. Her car lease on that Lexus she insisted she needed? Me. That ski trip to Aspen she posted all over social media last winter? Also me. Working doubles to afford it, while she complained the lodge wasn't upscale enough, but I wasn't about to just take that and smile. My boring job pays for everything in this house, I said, keeping my voice level, including whatever designer outfit you're wearing right now. She finally looked up. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe show some respect to the person funding your lifestyle. Her face went red. Funding my lifestyle? Are you serious right now? Dead serious. You want to call my work boring? Fine. But you don't get to disrespect me in my own house while I'm the only one actually contributing anything. She slammed her phone on the counter. You know what? I don't need this. I don't need your attitude or your guilt trips. She grabbed her designer purse, the one that costs more than most people's monthly rent. Where are you going? I asked. Out. Dinner with old coworkers. And don't start with me about it. Then I caught the perfume. The expensive stuff she saves for special occasions. The kind that comes in a bottle the size of my thumb and costs $200. Old co-workers, I repeated. Dressed like that. Wearing perfume I bought you for our anniversary. She froze for half a second, then tried to cover. I'm allowed to look nice, Cameron. Not everything is some conspiracy. Never said it was, but interesting timing right after you just told me how boring I am. Her hand was already on the doorknob. I'll be late. Don't wait up. Wasn't planning on it. The door closed harder than necessary. I sat there for a minute, then got up and poured the rest of my coffee down the sink, grabbed my keys and headed out. I wasn't about to sit around feeling sorry for myself while she was out doing whatever she was actually doing. Hit the gym for 2 hours. Came home, made dinner, watched a game, went to bed at 11. She rolled in at 2:30 a.m. I wasn't asleep. Heard her stumble through the door, heard her curse when she knocked something over, heard the shower running for 20 minutes. She climbed into bed smelling like hotel soap and stayed on her side. Around 3 a.m., she spoke into the darkness. Cameron? I didn't answer right away. Cameron, I know you're awake. What? Long pause. I'm sorry about earlier. What I said about your job. That was out of line. I stared at the ceiling. Yeah, it was. I've just been stressed. Work stuff. Life stuff. I took it out on you and that wasn't fair. Work stuff, I said. What work stuff? You haven't held down a steady job in over a year. Another pause. I've been doing freelance consulting. It's complicated. Right. She rolled over, tried to touch my arm. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. Can we just forget tonight happened? She asked quietly. Sure, Anya. Whatever you want. She eventually fell asleep. I didn't, because my phone had buzzed around midnight while I was at the gym. Number I didn't recognize. I'd checked it in the locker room. She's lying to you. Then another message came through. If you want proof, meet me tomorrow. 9 a.m., Grounds Coffee on 5th. Come alone. I laid there thinking about that text, about the perfume, about how she'd come home at 2:30 a.m., smelling like hotel soap, about the apology that felt more like damage control than actual remorse. Things had been weird for months. I'd noticed but kept making excuses. Work stress, life changes, normal marriage stuff. But something about tonight was different. The way she'd looked at me with pure contempt. The way she'd tried to walk it back, only after getting home at 2:30 in the morning. I looked at that text message again in the dark. Some stranger had decided I'd been in denial long enough. Maybe they were right. Grounds Coffee was one of those places that tries too hard. Exposed brick, mismatched furniture, coffee that costs $8 for a cup that's gone in 3 sips. I showed up at 8:45 because I wanted to see her coming. Got a coffee I didn't want and took a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. She walked in at exactly 9 o'clock. Tall, dark hair, dressed like someone who'd stopped caring about impressing people. She looked tired in a way that goes deeper than bad sleep, like someone who'd been carrying dead weight for too long and finally decided to drop it. She spotted me and walked over. "Cameron?" I nodded. She sat down without ordering anything. No small talk, just straight business. "I'm Roxanne. My husband is Tucker. He's the one your wife's been sleeping with for the past 7 months." Just like that. No build-up, no warning. Just detonated the bomb right there on the table between us. I wanted to call her crazy. Wanted to say Anya wouldn't do that. But instead I just asked, "How do you know?" Roxanne pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. First photo was a screenshot of text messages. Tucker's name at the top. And there was Anya's name in the thread. Not saved as a contact, just typed out raw. Messages about meeting up, inside jokes, a bathroom mirror selfie that was definitely taken in our townhouse. More screenshots, hotel confirmations, Venmo transactions with descriptions like, "Thanks for dinner, babe," and "Last night was amazing." The last one was a photo Roxanne had taken herself. Grainy but clear enough. Anya and some guy in a restaurant booth, her hand on his thigh, both of them leaning close like they were the only two people in the world. I pushed the phone back. Felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "When did you find out?" I asked. 3 weeks ago. I was looking for a confirmation email on his phone and found everything. An entire folder of messages he thought he'd deleted. Emails. Calendar appointments disguised as client meetings. I sat there trying to process it. Anya had looked me in the eye every single day for 7 months. Had kissed me goodbye. Had made weekend plans. Had acted annoyed when I wanted to talk. And the whole time she'd been living a completely separate life. "Why tell me?" I asked. Roxanne leaned forward. "Because I'm done playing pretend. But I need documentation. Real proof. And I can't do it alone. Tucker knows my car, knows my schedule, knows when I'm watching, but he doesn't know you. You want to follow them. I want evidence," she said. "Every lie documented. Every meeting tracked. Every hotel room photographed. I want it all recorded so when I walk away, there's no room for him to spin it or make me doubt myself." I thought about Anya coming home at 2:30 a.m., about the perfume, about the way she'd dismissed me like I was background noise. "When do we start?" I said. Roxanne smiled. First time. Barely. "Tonight. There's a steakhouse on Riverside. They'll be there at 8. We met in the parking lot at 7:30. Roxanne was already there, sitting in her sedan 3 rows back from the entrance. I parked next to her and got in her passenger seat. She pointed through the windshield. "There. Corner booth by the window." I looked. Anya was sitting across from a guy I'd never seen before. Mid-30s, clean haircut. The kind of guy who looks like he irons his jeans. He was talking with his hands animated, and Anya was laughing. Actually laughing. That real laugh I hadn't heard in months. Roxanne pulled out her phone and started taking photos. Nothing obvious, just documentation. The two of them together, timestamp, location. "She told me she was meeting her old roommate from college," I said quietly. "Tucker told me he was meeting a client for dinner. Said he needed to make a good impression. We sat there for 2.5 hours. Watched them order appetizers, entrees, dessert, more appetizers. Watched him reach across the table and touch her hand. Watched her let him. When they finally left, they didn't walk to separate cars. They got into his. Together." Roxanne started her engine. "Ready?" I was. We followed them to a hotel downtown. One of those mid-tier places where the parking garage connects directly to the lobby. We couldn't follow them in without being obvious. But Roxanne photographed his car, the plate, the hotel sign, the timestamp. We sat there for 3.5 hours. When I got home that night, Anya was already in bed, scrolling through her phone. She glanced up when I walked in. "How was your night?" she asked like she was reading from a script. "Fine. Yours?" "Exhausting. Lydia never stops talking." She went right back to her phone like nothing had happened. I stood in the shower for 30 minutes, trying to figure out how I'd married someone who could lie that easily. Roxanne and I developed a system over the next 2 months. We'd meet up, compare notes, follow them when we could. They weren't sloppy, but they had patterns. Tuesday nights, Thursday afternoons, Saturday mornings when both of us were supposedly running errands. Roxanne kept a spreadsheet. Dates, times, locations, descriptions. I started collecting my own evidence. Screenshots of Anya's calendar when she left her laptop open. Receipts I found in her purse. Gas station charges from across town when she claimed to be working late. We talked during the stakeouts. Started with surface level stuff. Roxanne worked in pharmaceutical sales. Road warrior type, calling on doctors and clinics all day. She'd been with Tucker for 8 years, married for 5. They'd talked about kids but kept postponing it. Glad we did now, she said one night outside a restaurant. Can you imagine splitting custody with someone like this? I told her about my job, about how Anya used to be different when we first met at that hardware store. She'd seemed spontaneous, fun, like someone who actually enjoyed life. Used to leave me notes, drag me to concerts even though I hated crowds, surprise me with random road trips. When did it change? Roxanne asked. Gradually, like watching paint fade. One day I looked up and realized I was living with a stranger. Roxanne nodded. Tucker used to plan surprise trips, used to cook elaborate dinners just because. Then one day he just stopped trying and I didn't notice until months had passed. We weren't friends exactly, more like soldiers in the same war. Then one Thursday in late August, everything escalated. Anya had told me she was working late on some big project. Wouldn't be home until 10. Roxanne texted me at 6:30. Northgate Hotel, room 318. Just watch them check in. I was sitting outside the nonprofit where Anya claimed to work. I'd been there for 3 hours and hadn't seen her once. Because she wasn't there. Never had been. I drove to the hotel, sat in the parking lot staring at nothing. Roxanne called at 9:15. They just left. Separate cars. She's heading your direction. Anya got home at 9:50. Walked in looking refreshed, like she'd just finished a productive day at work. She kissed my cheek and asked what I wanted for dinner tomorrow. My jaw clenched. My hand stayed steady on the countertop. Instead, I said, whatever you want. The next morning, I did something I should have done months ago. Called the Community Outreach Foundation, where Anya claimed to work. The nonprofit she'd been supposedly employed at for 7 months. A woman answered. Professional, friendly. Hi, I'm trying to reach Anya, I said. Is she available? I'm sorry, we don't have anyone by that name here. Are you sure? She's in the development department. Fundraising. I coordinate all our development staff. We've never employed anyone named Anya. I thanked her and hung up. Sat in my truck outside a gas station, staring at nothing. She'd made up an entire job. 7 months of leaving the house every morning, coming home every evening, complaining about her boss and her coworkers and office politics. All of it fiction. I texted Roxanne. The job's fake. The whole thing. She's been lying about employment for 7 months. Roxanne called immediately. What? I told her everything. Why would she do that? Roxanne asked. Freedom, I said. She wanted the freedom to do whatever she wanted without questions. So she built herself a fake life to hide behind. Roxanne was quiet for a long time. We need to finish this soon, before they figure out we know. After finding out about the fake job, things started picking up speed. Roxanne and I met more often, not just for surveillance. We'd grab coffee, compare notes, talk through how we'd missed the obvious signs for so long. She told me about credit card charges from restaurants Tucker had never taken her to, about the time he claimed to be at a conference in Phoenix, but she found out later he'd never left the state. I told her about Anya showering immediately after coming home, about how she'd started sleeping facing away from me, about the way she'd changed the subject whenever I brought up future plans. You ever feel like you're losing your mind? I asked one afternoon. We were sitting in my truck near a lake where Anya and I used to go early in our relationship. Like maybe you're blowing this out of proportion? Every single day, Roxanne said. But then I look at the evidence and remember I'm not imagining it. We were quiet for a minute. What are you going to do? Roxanne asked. After this. Leave, I said. First time I'd said it out loud. File for divorce. Cut her out completely. No second chances. No working through it. Just done. Roxanne nodded. Same. Tucker can have whatever life he wants, but I won't be part of it. We weren't just gathering evidence anymore after that conversation. We were building something else. Trust. Understanding. A partnership based on truth instead of lies. 2 nights later, Anya came home acting different. Weird, different. She was quiet through dinner, kept watching me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. You've been distant lately, she said while we were cleaning up. I almost laughed. Have I? Yeah. Like your mind's somewhere else. Are you seeing someone? The accusation was so absurd I actually stopped washing dishes and looked at her. Are you serious right now? She crossed her arms. You're gone more. You're on your phone constantly. You barely talk to me anymore. I dried a plate slowly. Maybe I'm just tired of being your emotional punching bag. Her eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm tired, Anya. Tired of working myself into the ground while you coast. Tired of being treated like I'm optional. Tired of everything. She didn't have a response to that. Just grabbed her phone and walked out of the kitchen. Over the next week, she watched me more. Started checking my phone when I left it out. Asked pointed questions about where I'd been, who I'd been with. She knew something was different. Just couldn't figure out what. Then, one evening, I came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. Not because I was caught, because I wasn't ready. Didn't have everything lined up yet. About what? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She took a breath, looked genuinely uncomfortable for the first time in months. I need to tell you something I should have told you a while ago. I sat down across from her and waited. I didn't actually take that job at the nonprofit. I made it up. I stared at her, said nothing. I felt trapped, she continued, in everything. I needed time to think, so I pretended to have a job and used the time to figure things out. She looked up with what seemed like genuine vulnerability. I know I should have been honest. I know I messed up, but I want to fix this now. I want us to work on this together. It was perfect, the ideal partial confession. Just enough truth to seem real while leaving out Tucker, the hotels, the 7-month affair, all of it. She'd somehow figured out I was onto something. This was damage control. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I love you. Because I don't want to lose you. Because I want us to be honest with each other moving forward. I almost believed her. Almost. Thank you for telling me, I said calmly. Relief flooded her face. So we can work on this? Start fresh? Yeah, we can work on it. She came around the table and hugged me. Actually hugged me. First time in months she'd initiated physical contact. I hugged her back and felt nothing. That night, after she fell asleep, I texted Roxanne. She's trying to control the narrative. Confessed to the fake job, but left out Tucker entirely. She knows something's up. Roxanne replied immediately. Then we move faster. I've got almost everything documented. 2 weeks max. I looked at Anya sleeping next to me, completely unaware that the safety net had already disintegrated. 2 weeks. I could fake it for 2 weeks. The next day, Anya was different. Lighter. She made breakfast. Left a note in my lunch. Acted like we were some happy couple working through a rough patch. She thought her confession had worked, that we were healing. I played along. Smiled when appropriate. Held her hand when she reached for mine. Pretended everything was fine. Meanwhile, Roxanne and I kept working. She found deleted emails Tucker had tried to hide. I found a second phone Anya kept in her gym bag, one I'd never known existed. We were closing in. Over the next few weeks, Roxanne and I kept working. Documentation, evidence, building the case that would end both marriages permanently. We'd grown closer during those late-night stakeouts. What started as alliance became something messier. One night in early September, after watching them together at another hotel, something broke between us. We were tired, lonely, looking for something real in the middle of all the lies. We crossed a line that night. The guilt tried to creep in, but then I'd remember Anya coming home at 2:30 a.m., remember her lies, remember 7 months of deception. We weren't the ones who destroyed our marriages. They'd done that themselves. When I got home that night, Anya was making dinner, humming, acting like we were some perfect couple working through our issues. How was your day? She asked, all cheerful. Long? Yours? Good. I've been thinking about taking a pottery class. Thought it might be fun to learn something new. I watched her move around the kitchen, playing house, pretending she hadn't destroyed everything. Sounds great, I said. She believed it. The next few weeks were more of the same. Anya playing the role of devoted wife, me planning her exit, Roxanne doing the same with Tucker. Everything was lined up. Divorce papers ready, evidence compiled, process server hired and paid in advance. We just needed the right moment, the right stage for the final act. That's when the party invitation arrived. Perfect timing, perfect audience. Anya was excited about it. Talked about seeing her old friends, asked what I'd wear. I told her I'd be there. Didn't mention I'd be bringing a guest. 2 weeks before the party, Roxanne and I finalized everything, met with our lawyers, confirmed the timeline, made sure every detail was locked down. You ready for this? Roxanne asked. Been ready for months. No second thoughts? None. Good. They built this in public. They can watch it collapse the same way. The party invitation had been sitting on our counter for a month. One of Anya's old friends was hosting an end-of-summer gathering at her house. Big backyard, catered food, the whole production. Anya had mentioned it back when she still thought she could salvage our marriage. I'd confirmed we were coming, just didn't mention I'd be bringing a guest. Roxanne and I spent the week before finalizing everything. Divorce papers drawn up and ready to file. All evidence compiled and organized. We'd planned exactly how this would go down. "You're sure about this?" Roxanne asked 2 nights before. We were at her apartment going over the details. "Completely," I said. "They built this in public. They can watch it collapse in public." I kept my routine normal all week. The day before the party, Anya seemed lighter than usual. She was humming while getting ready, talking about seeing her friends, asking what I'd wear. "Probably just khakis and a button-down," I said. "You should wear that blue shirt, the one I got you last Christmas." "Sure, whatever." She came over and kissed my cheek. Actually initiated contact for once. "I'm glad we're working on things." "I really am." I nodded and went back to my coffee. She didn't notice I'd already moved half my stuff out over the past 2 weeks. Didn't notice the apartment lease agreement hidden in my truck. Didn't notice anything. The next morning, Anya was in a great mood. Made breakfast. Talked about the party. Asked if I was excited to see everyone. "Should be interesting," I said. She smiled. Had no clue what that meant. I went about my day normally. Went to work. Came home. Got ready for the party. At 6:45, I picked up Roxanne. She was wearing a simple black dress. She looked nervous, but ready. "She has no idea," Roxanne said as we drove. "None. Still thinks we're working on our marriage. Tucker's the same. He thinks tonight is just another party. Perfect. The blind side will hit them harder than they deserve." We pulled up to the house at 7:30. The party was already going. Music, voices, laughter coming through the windows. I parked 3 houses down and texted the process server. "Give us 5 minutes, then come to the front door." He replied, "Copy that." Roxanne looked at me. Last chance to back out. Not a chance. We walked up together. The house was packed. Maybe 40 people scattered between the living room, kitchen, and backyard. Someone had spent serious money on decorations. String lights everywhere. Catered appetizers on every surface. I spotted Anya immediately. Standing by the patio doors, glass of water in hand, talking to a group of 3 women. She saw me walk in. Her eyes went straight to Roxanne, then back to me. Then to Roxanne again. Her face went white. The conversation around her stuttered. One of the women followed Anya's stare, saw us, and stopped mid-sentence. Music was still playing. People kept talking in the kitchen, just quieter now. A couple folks near the door pretended not to notice anything. I scanned the space. Found Tucker by the refreshment table. He'd gone pale too, frozen mid-sip. I walked further into the room, Roxanne beside me. Calm, deliberate. "Sorry we're late," I said to the room. Traffic was brutal. Anya found her voice. Barely. "Cameron, what are you doing?" The front door opened. The process server walked in holding 2 manila envelopes. Professional. Efficient. Right on schedule. "Anya?" he asked. She nodded, confused. He handed her the first envelope. "You've been served." Then he turned to Tucker. "Tucker?" Tucker's face went from pale to green. "Yes? You've been served." Second envelope delivered. The server turned and walked out. Job done. The room felt wrong now. Music still going, but nobody dancing. "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "From both of us." Seemed appropriate to make it official. Someone dropped a glass. The sound cut through everything. Anya's hands were shaking. "You don't need to do this here. Not in front of everyone." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Then I turned to face the room. "For anyone wondering, my wife's been having an affair with him," I pointed at Tucker. "For the past 7 months. Hotels, fake work events, the full package. Roxanne here is Tucker's wife. We've spent the past 2 months documenting everything." Anya's eyes went wild. "Cameron, stop." "Interesting fact," I kept going. "Anya also fabricated an entire job. Spent 7 months pretending to work at a nonprofit that's never heard of her. All so she could have the freedom to do whatever she wanted." Tucker made the mistake of reaching for Anya's arm. She yanked away like he was toxic. "Don't touch me," she hissed at him. And just like that, the united front crumbled. "This is your fault," she said to Tucker, voice rising. "You said we were careful. You said—" Tucker's face turned red. "My fault? You literally said your marriage was done. That you were just waiting. I said that because—" Anya stopped. Started again. "Because you wouldn't stop texting me. Every day. Pushing to meet." "I pushed? You suggested the hotel last month. You said your place was too risky." Someone in the kitchen muttered something. A few people were still pretending to look at their phones. Anya turned back to me, mascara starting to run. Cameron, please. We can talk about this privately. I messed up. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, I said. You killed this marriage 7 months ago. I'm just making it official now. She didn't respond, just stood there crying. Roxanne stepped forward, looked at Tucker with pure contempt. I'll be filing mine Monday morning. You can pick up whatever you want from the curb this weekend. Everything else gets donated. I'm keeping the house. Tucker opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Then Anya did something I didn't expect. She threw her glass. Not at me, at Tucker. It hit the wall next to his head and exploded. Glass everywhere. Water dripping down the paint. You ruined my life, she screamed at him. You literally said you'd leave her, that we'd be together, and now I've lost everything. Tucker backed up. Stop. Not here. You're being insane. Insane? Anya's voice climbed higher. You texted me every single day. Said you loved me. That I was the one. That your marriage was dead. Tucker stopped. Looked around at everyone watching. I was telling you what you wanted to hear. Did you really think I'd leave Roxanne for you? The room went silent then. Actually silent. Anya lunged at him. Actually lunged. 2 of her friends had to grab her and hold her back. She was sobbing now. Full breakdown. I left my husband for you. I destroyed everything for you. You destroyed your marriage because you're a liar and a cheater, I said calmly. Same as him. You two deserve each other. Tucker rounded on me. You think you're perfect? Standing here playing victim? You're pathetic. No wonder she wanted out. I smiled. Actually smiled. Maybe. But at least I'm not the one who just got exposed as a liar in front of 40 people. At least I'm not the one losing my house. And I'm definitely not the one standing here getting water thrown at my head. Roxanne spoke up, her voice cutting through the chaos. Oh, and Tucker, that promotion you were hoping for? I filed a report with your company's compliance department 2 days ago. Expense records, hotel charges on the corporate card, dates and timestamps, all documented. Tucker's face went from red to white in about 2 seconds. You didn't, he whispered. I absolutely did, Roxanne said. Along with your actual meeting schedule showing where you really were versus where you claimed to be. All of it time-stamped and cross-referenced. He looked like he might pass out. Anya tried one last time, grabbed my arm. Cameron, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a huge mistake. We can fix this. Counseling, whatever you want. I removed her hand from my arm. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. We walked out together. Behind us, the chaos erupted. People talking over each other. Anya still sobbing. Someone asking if they should call someone. Tucker yelling something I didn't bother listening to. We got in my truck and I started the engine. Neither of us spoke for a few blocks. Then Roxanne said quietly, that was intense. Yeah. You okay? I will be. I dropped her at her place. We sat in the car for a minute. Thank you, she said, for having my back through all of this. You had mine first. She smiled. Text me tomorrow. We should figure out next steps. Yeah. She got out and headed inside. I drove to my new apartment, the one I'd been moving into piece by piece for the past week. My phone started buzzing around midnight. Anya. I blocked her number and kept packing. 3 weeks after the party, everything got more complicated. Roxanne texted me. Need to meet. Tonight. Important. We met at the park near her place. She was sitting on a bench, staring at nothing when I pulled up. I sat down next to her. What's going on? She didn't look at me. I took a test this morning. What kind of test? Pregnancy test. I just stared. She pulled folded paper from her jacket and handed it over. Lab results. Clear as day. Positive. How? I managed. She finally looked at me. We both know how, Cameron. She was right. That night in early September during the surveillance. After months of watching betrayal unfold, we'd reached for something real. Are you sure it's mine? I asked. I haven't been with Tucker in almost a year. I moved into the guest room last October. He barely notices when I'm home. This complicated everything. What do you want to do? I finally asked. Long silence. I'm keeping it, but I need you to know I'm not expecting anything from you. You can walk away if you need to. I'm not walking away. She looked at me. Cameron, you don't have to. I'm not walking away, I repeated. I don't know what this looks like yet, but I'm not disappearing. Her face changed. Relief, maybe. We sat there for another hour talking through logistics, timing, complications, how everything had just gotten way more complex. The divorces were already in motion. Papers filed. Evidence submitted. No going back now. We'll figure it out, I said. Yeah, Roxanne said quietly. We will. 8 months after that party, my life looked completely different. The divorce went through without much fight. Anya tried to stall at first, kept sending offers through her lawyer, like she was haggling on Facebook Marketplace. Once my attorney laid out what we had, Anya stopped playing games. She signed, took her cut, and disappeared to another state. I heard she started dating someone new almost immediately. Good luck to that guy. Hope he enjoys mystery, non-profit shifts. Tucker lasted about 3 weeks at his job after the party. Turns out companies don't love it when you treat business travel like a personal hobby. One meeting with his boss, and he was done. Last I heard, he was back living with his parents and pretending the world did him dirty. I moved into a one-bedroom on the east side. Old building, thin walls, nothing fancy. But it was mine. No fake smiles in the kitchen, no tension in the air, just quiet and keys that only belonged to me. Roxanne had Daniel in early June. Healthy baby, loud lungs, tiny fists. Tucker didn't show up for anything that mattered. Her lawyer handled the paperwork, and Tucker agreed to stay away and stop pretending he wanted a family. Not brave, not noble, just lazy. Roxanne and I didn't rush anything. No grand declarations. We just kept showing up for the hard parts. If that counts as romance, then cool, I guess. One Saturday, Roxanne asked me to come by. Her place looked like a different house. Repainted, rearranged, like she finally scrubbed the guy off the walls. Daniel was asleep in a bassinet near the couch, still so small it didn't feel real. We sat there with coffee, talking logistics. Diapers, schedules, childcare, money, real life stuff. No pretending. At one point, she brought up us, in that careful way people do when they're trying not to spook something fragile. I didn't give her a label. I gave her the truth. I'm here, I'm consistent, and I'm not disappearing. That was enough. I left around 5 and drove back to my place feeling lighter than I had in years. I ate dinner, watched a game, and went to sleep at a normal hour. Nobody slammed cabinets. Nobody tested me. Nobody acted like I was a prop in their fake life. 2 weeks after Daniel came home, Tucker and Anya tried one last desperate stunt. They showed up at Roxanne's place at 3 a.m., thinking they were slick. Ring camera caught them clear as day. Dark clothes, Anya carrying a bag. They used the old garage code Roxanne hadn't changed yet. Roxanne called me immediately. The police were already on the way. By the time I got there, she was outside with Daniel, safe. Cops went in and found both of them inside. Tucker going through the home office drawers. Anya looking for the file boxes in the closet. They got arrested. This wasn't misunderstanding territory. This was charges that stick territory. Breaking and entering. Attempted theft of documents. Harassment. Restraining orders. The whole set. A month later, Anya tried contacting me from a blocked number with the usual, "I'm sorry, you deserved better" script. I didn't respond. I deleted it and went back to my life. 9 months ago, I was married to someone who treated me like an afterthought and called her lies a lifestyle. Now I had my own place, my own peace, and a kid in my life who actually benefited from me being there. They made choices. I made paperwork. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true. My dad's new girlfriend threw my 10-year-old brother out of the house while I was deployed, so I showed her what happens when you mess with a military brother. Sup, Reddit. So my dad decided to think with the wrong head for about a year straight, and my little brother almost paid the price for it. All this happened while I was stationed overseas. Grab a snack. This one's a ride. Let me explain how we got here. I'm Hunter, 25 male, been in the Army for 6 years now. My mom passed away 2 years ago from cancer, pancreatic. She was diagnosed in March and gone by July. Left behind me, my little brother Noah, who was 8 at the time, and my dad Mark. Mom basically held our family together. She was the one who kept everything running, the one who made sure Noah did his homework and Dad remembered to pay bills on time. When she died, everything just kind of fell apart. Dad was a mess for about 8 months. Couldn't cook, couldn't clean, could barely get Noah to school on time. I was home on leave for the funeral and stuck around an extra month to help stabilize things, but eventually I had to go back. The military doesn't care about your grief timeline. I set up grocery delivery, hired a cleaning service twice a month, and made my neighbor Mrs. Hensley promise to check in on Noah regularly. She'd known our family for 15 years and treated him like a grandson. Then Dad met Veronica. She showed up about 10 months after Mom died. Dad met her at some grief support group, which looking back is pretty ironic. She was 42, divorced twice, and put together. Perfect makeup at all times. Designer bags that didn't match her claimed income as a dental hygienist. Nails always done. Hair always styled. The kind of woman who looked ready for a photo shoot while buying groceries. She laughed at everything Dad said like he was the funniest man alive. Touched his arm constantly. What really got me was how fast she started making herself at home. Within 2 months, she had a drawer in the bathroom. Within 3, she had a key. Within 4, she was redecorating rooms and suggesting Dad needed to update his wardrobe because his clothes were dated. Dad ate it up. After a year of barely functioning, having someone pay attention to him again was everything he needed. He couldn't see what was obvious to everyone else. I came home on leave about 4 months into their relationship, and something felt wrong immediately. The house smelled different. Mom's pictures had been moved to less prominent locations. Veronica had rearranged the living room furniture and thrown out Mom's favorite reading chair because it was old and didn't match the aesthetic she was going for. Noah was quieter than usual. When I asked him about Veronica, he just shrugged and said she was whatever. But the way he said it made me suspicious. Kids aren't great at hiding when they're uncomfortable. They just shut down. I tried to talk to Dad about it. Told him I thought things were moving pretty fast. That maybe Veronica was a little too eager to change stuff around the house. That Noah seemed off. Dad told me I was being paranoid. That I was looking for problems because I wasn't ready to see him move on from Mom. That Veronica was wonderful and I should give her a chance. So I bit my tongue. Figured maybe I was wrong. Maybe grief was making me suspicious of anyone who wasn't Mom. I went back overseas and tried to trust that Dad knew what he was doing. That was my first mistake. Over the next few months, Mrs. Hensley started sending me concerned texts. Nothing concrete, just observations. Said Noah was spending more time at her house after school. Said Veronica didn't seem very warm toward him. Said she'd heard raised voices a few times through the walls, but couldn't make out what was being said. I called Noah every week, but he never said anything was wrong. Just talked about school and video games and the book series he was reading. Normal kid stuff. But I could hear something underneath it. Then, in late July, I got deployed to Germany for a 6-month rotation. Standard logistics work, nothing dangerous, but it meant I was 8 hours ahead and couldn't check in as often. I told Noah to call me anytime, day or night. Told Mrs. Hensley to let me know immediately if anything seemed off. 3 months into the deployment, my phone rang at 2 a.m. local time. It was Mrs. Hensley. Her voice was shaking. She told me Noah was at her house, that she'd found him sitting on her porch in the dark with a garbage bag full of clothes, crying. That Veronica had told him he needed to leave and find somewhere else to live. That his father hadn't stopped her, my 10-year-old brother, thrown out of his own home, in November, in the dark. I spent the next hour on the phone getting the full story. Veronica had apparently decided that Noah was too much trouble, too messy, too loud. She'd been pushing Dad for months to send him to boarding school or have him live with relatives. Dad kept saying no, but his resistance was weakening. Every week he gave a little more ground. Every week Veronica pushed a little harder. That night, they'd had a fight about something minor. Noah had left his backpack in the living room. Veronica had tripped over it, and something in her snapped. She started screaming at Noah about how he was ruining everything, how he didn't belong there, how he needed to go find his real family since clearly this one didn't want him. Dad was sitting right there, didn't say a word. Noah started crying and asked Dad if he didn't want him anymore. Dad still didn't say anything, just looked at the floor. Veronica grabbed a garbage bag from under the sink and told Noah to start packing. Said she wanted him out of the house in 20 minutes. Said if he wasn't gone, she'd call the police and tell them he was a runaway causing problems. Dad sat there the whole time, watched his son pack his belongings into a trash bag, watched him walk out the front door into the cold November night, and never said a single word to stop it. Mrs. Hensley had been watching from her window when she saw Noah walk out with that bag. Said he sat down on the porch steps and just stared at the street. She went out and found him crying, asked what happened, and brought him inside when he couldn't answer. By a woman who'd been dating his father for about a year. I sat in my barracks room staring at the wall for a long time after that call. Rage makes you stupid, so I pushed it down and started making plans. Because here's the thing Veronica and my dad apparently forgot. That house doesn't belong to my father. It belonged to my mother. And when she died, she left it to me and Noah through a trust. I'm the trustee until Noah turns 18. Dad's not on the deed, not on the trust, not on anything. He was living there because we let him, not because he owned anything. Veronica had just thrown the legal owner of that house out onto the street, and I was going to make sure she understood exactly what that meant. Getting emergency leave approved took 11 days. 11 days of paperwork, phone calls, and explaining the situation to commanding officers who had better things to do than deal with my family drama. But Danny Hensley had faxed over documentation showing that a minor property owner had been illegally evicted from his own residence, and that moved things along faster than expected. During those 11 days, I stayed in constant contact with Mrs. Hensley and Danny. Noah was staying with them, and Mrs. Hensley made sure he got to school every day so he wouldn't fall behind. Danny had advised me not to tip off Dad or Veronica about what was coming, said we needed to get everything lined up before making any moves. So I played dumb on the phone with Dad, called him twice to check in, kept my voice neutral, asked how things were going. He said everything was fine. Said Noah was staying with friends for a bit while they sorted out some behavioral issues. Said Veronica sent her love. I almost asked him what kind of father lets his girlfriend throw his kid out and then pretends everything is normal, but I held it together. Couldn't show my hand yet. Danny, meanwhile, pulled the deed and confirmed what I already knew. The house was in my name and Noah's name. Dad had zero ownership stake. He was basically a guest who'd been allowed to stay out of family courtesy. Danny also did some basic checking on Veronica. Found out she hadn't worked in 3 years, despite claiming to be a dental hygienist. Her previous marriage had ended with her walking away with the house and a chunk of change. That told me enough. She had a playbook. Except this time, she'd miscalculated badly. Dad didn't own what she thought he owned. I landed at the airport on a Tuesday afternoon, rented a car, and drove straight to Danny's office. He had a folder waiting for me. The deed. Notes from Mrs. Hensley about what she'd witnessed. Information about filing a CPS complaint. We kept the strategy simple. Danny said the fastest path was getting Veronica to leave voluntarily tonight, then handling the rest legally. If she refused, we could request a sheriff's civil standby while she packed. I could file eviction paperwork for my father, which would take 30 days. I could file a CPS report for child abandonment, which would create an official record. I chose all of it. Danny made some calls to set things up. Then I drove to my house. It was dark when I pulled into the driveway. The lights were on inside. Veronica's white SUV was parked in what used to be Mom's spot in the garage. Dad's truck was next to it. I sat in the car for a minute, just looking at the house where I'd grown up. Then I got out and walked to the front door. I didn't knock. I had a key. They were sitting in the living room watching television. The room looked completely different. New paint, new furniture, new decorations. Like they'd erased every trace of our family and started fresh. Veronica looked up first. Her face went through about 4 expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, then confusion, then she forced a smile. Hunter, what a surprise. You didn't tell us you were coming home. I didn't answer her. I looked at my father. Where's Noah? Dad shifted in his recliner. He's staying with friends. We thought some space would be good for him. I know exactly where Noah is. I know what happened. I know everything. The room got very quiet. Veronica tried to take control of the situation immediately. She stood up from the couch and started talking calmly about how there had been a misunderstanding, how Noah had been acting out and needed structure, how they'd been planning to discuss long-term solutions as a family. I cut her off. You've got 30 minutes to pack whatever stuff is actually yours and get out of my house. If you're not gone by then, I'll get you removed for trespassing. She laughed. Actually laughed. What are you talking about? This is Mark's house. You can't just kick me out. I pulled out the deed from my folder, showed her my name, showed her Noah's name, pointed to where my father's name wasn't. This house belongs to me and my 10-year-old brother. Mom left it to us. Dad lives here because we let him. You live here because Dad let you. Dad finally spoke up. His voice was tight. Your mom wanted me to have the house. There's got to be some mistake with the paperwork. Did you ever actually read Mom's will? Or did you just assume everything would work out in your favor? He didn't have an answer. Veronica's face had changed. The polished mask was cracking. She looked at Dad with something between anger and disbelief. I watched her realize in real time that she'd bet on the wrong horse, that Dad didn't actually own anything worth taking. She turned back to me and tried a different approach. Said she understood I was upset. Said we could talk about this like adults. Said there was no need to be hasty. 28 minutes now. Dad stood up from his recliner. His face was red. I'm not letting you throw my girlfriend out of my home. I'm still your father, and you need to show some respect. What respect did you show Noah? What kind of father watches his girlfriend throw his 10-year-old son out and then lies about it? You think Mom would be proud of who you've become? That one landed. I watched it hit him. His mouth opened and closed a few times, but nothing came out. Veronica grabbed his arm. Don't let him get in your head, Mark. He's just trying to cause problems because he never accepted us being together. 25 minutes. Every minute you spend arguing is a minute less for packing. She finally got the message, stormed off toward the bedroom. I could hear her slamming drawers and closet doors. Dad stood there looking lost, like he couldn't process what was happening. The eviction paperwork gets filed tomorrow morning. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Are you serious right now? You're really going to kick your own father out of the family home? You kicked yourself out the moment you chose some bish over Noah. Veronica left in 23 minutes, dragging 2 suitcases and a garbage bag full of clothes. She didn't say goodbye, just shot me a look of pure hatred as she walked past and got in her SUV. Peeled out of the driveway fast enough to leave tire marks on the concrete. Dad didn't leave with her. He sat back down in his recliner and stared at the wall like he was in shock. I didn't try to talk to him. Didn't have anything else to say. I walked through the house that night, going through what had changed, what was missing, what had been replaced. Mom's pictures were still there, but hidden. I found them in a box in the garage, wrapped in newspaper like they were being stored for a move. Her clothes were gone from the closet. Her jewelry was missing from the dresser. Her books had been taken off the shelves. Veronica had erased her from every room. Noah's room was the worst. His bed was gone. His posters were gone. His toys and books, and the model rocket we'd built together last summer, all gone. There was a desk with Veronica's laptop and a filing cabinet and some generic art prints on the walls. The next morning, I filed the eviction paperwork and drove to Danny's office to file the CPS report. A caseworker would be assigned. They'd interview Noah, me, Dad, and assess the situation. Danny was confident I could get full guardianship. Mrs. Hensley had been keeping detailed notes since Noah started spending more time at her house. Dates and times. Things Noah had said about how Veronica treated him. The night she threw him out. All documented. I picked Noah up from the Hensley house that afternoon and brought him home. Mrs. Hensley hugged me at the door and told me she was proud of how I'd handled everything. Said my mother would be proud too. That got to me more than I expected. Noah was quiet during the drive. Kept looking out the window like he wasn't sure where we were going. When we pulled into the driveway, he didn't immediately get out of the car. Just sat there staring at the house. Walking through the front door, he looked around like he didn't recognize the place. Asked where all the furniture came from. Asked where his room went. Asked where Mom's pictures were. I told him we'd fix everything. Get his room back. Put Mom's pictures where they belonged. Make it feel like home again. We started in the garage. Noah helped me carry the boxes of Mom's photos inside. He unwrapped each picture carefully. When he found the one of Mom holding him as a baby, he stopped and just looked at it for a long time. We spent the next 3 hours putting the house back together. Hanging pictures, moving furniture, throwing out the generic art Veronica had bought. By dinner time, the living room looked almost like it used to. Where's Veronica? Gone. She's not coming back. What about Dad? He's staying somewhere else for a while. We'll figure out the details later. Noah was quiet for a minute. Then he asked the question I'd been dreading. Did he pick her over me? I didn't know how to answer that. Didn't want to lie, but didn't want to break his heart more than it was already broken. So I just pulled him into a hug and held him for a while. Told him that whatever happened with Dad, I wasn't going anywhere. That this was his house and nobody was ever going to make him leave again. He cried for about 10 minutes. A 10-year-old trying to make sense of the fact that his father had failed him. After he calmed down, we ordered pizza and kept unpacking. Small steps. One at a time. Dad didn't go quietly. 3 days after I filed the eviction, he showed up at the house with Veronica in tow. They'd clearly been strategizing, because he came in hot with a whole list of arguments. The house was his in spirit even if not on paper. Mom would have wanted him to have it. I was being cruel. He was going to contest the will. He was going to sue. His lawyer would sort this out. Veronica stood behind him with her arms crossed, nodding along like she was his personal cheerleader. She'd clearly coached him on what to say. I let him finish. Then I told him to leave. He refused. Said he wasn't going anywhere until we worked this out. So I called Danny on speaker. Danny kept it simple. The deed says Hunter and Noah. There's nothing to contest. The eviction is valid. If Dad's not out in 30 days, the sheriff removes him. And the CPS investigation is ongoing. So any aggressive behavior goes in the file. Veronica grabbed Dad's arm and tried to pull him toward the door. She'd figured out this was a losing battle. But Dad wasn't ready to give up. He shook off her hand and pointed at me. Said I was turning his son against him. Said Noah belonged with his father, not with a brother who was never around. Where was all that fatherly concern when she threw Noah out? What was your plan for a 10-year-old with nowhere to go in November? He didn't have an answer. Just sputtered about how it wasn't supposed to happen that way. How he was going to bring Noah back in a few days once things calmed down. Those few days turned into 3 weeks. You never once checked on him. Never called. 3 weeks of pretending your son didn't exist. Veronica finally managed to drag Dad toward the door. She muttered something about getting their own lawyer. They left, but that wasn't the end of it. Veronica started a campaign with Dad's relatives, called aunts and uncles and cousins, spinning a story about how I'd gone crazy and stolen the family home, said I was mentally unstable from military service, said I was keeping Noah from his father, said Dad was devastated. It worked on a few of them. Uncle Wade called me yelling about family loyalty and disrespecting my mother's memory. Aunt Cheryl sent a long text about forgiveness. So I created my own group chat, added Uncle Wade, Aunt Cheryl, and everyone else Veronica had been talking to. Then I started posting receipts. First, a photo of Noah's room converted into Veronica's office. His bed gone. His posters gone. A filing cabinet where his bookshelf used to be. Then Mrs. Hensley's written statement about finding Noah on her porch in the dark with a garbage bag of clothes. The timestamp showing it was 8:40 p.m. on a Tuesday in November. Then screenshots of the text between me and Dad where he lied about Noah staying with friends because of behavioral issues. His actual words. His actual lies. Then the deed showing my name and Noah's name. The document proving Dad had never owned the house he'd been living in for 15 years. The chat went quiet for about an hour. I watched the read receipts tick up as people went through everything. Then Uncle Wade texted that he'd had no idea. That Veronica had called him crying about how I was stealing the family home. That she'd made it sound like I was having some kind of breakdown. That he felt like an idiot for believing her without checking first. Aunt Cheryl texted that she felt sick. That she'd believed Veronica because she'd seemed so concerned about Dad, so worried about the family falling apart, that she'd actually told other people in the family Veronica's version of events. That she was embarrassed. One of my cousins asked how Dad could have let this happen. Asked if the man they grew up knowing had really turned into this person. One by one, the relatives who'd sided with Dad started backpedaling. Asked what they could do to help. Said they couldn't believe Mark had turned into this. Veronica tried to jump into the chat with her own version. Said that I was manipulating everyone. That the evidence was taken out of context. That she'd only been trying to protect the family from a troubled child who needed professional help. Uncle Wade shut her down immediately. Asked her to explain what context made it okay to throw a 10-year-old out of his own house. She didn't have an answer. The family chat turned into a pile-on. Relatives I barely knew were texting about how they'd always thought something was off about Veronica, how Dad had changed since he started dating her, how they should have said something sooner but didn't want to interfere. Someone texted asking where Noah was now and if he was okay. I told them he was safe with the Hensleys and that I'd be taking over his care permanently. Veronica left the chat after about 20 minutes of getting destroyed. Dad never said anything at all. By the end of the day, I had 6 voicemails from relatives apologizing and offering to help however they could. The CPS investigation moved forward over the next several weeks. A caseworker named Paula came to the house to interview Noah and assess the living situation. She walked through every room, asked Noah some questions. Noah told her everything. About Veronica gradually pushing him out, about his father not defending him, about the night she threw him out and he sat on Mrs. Hensley's porch not knowing what to do, about how he'd been scared to call me because he didn't want to be a problem. Paula interviewed Dad at the motel where he was staying. Danny got a summary afterward. Dad tried to minimize everything. Said it was a misunderstanding. Said Veronica had been stressed. Said he was planning to bring Noah back once things calmed down. Paula wasn't buying it. She noted that 3 weeks had passed without any attempt at contact, that Dad had lied about Noah's whereabouts, that the home environment had been hostile toward the child. After about a month of interviews and documentation review, her preliminary recommendation came through. Guardianship should be transferred to me permanently. Dad tried to file an emergency motion to block it. His discount lawyer put something together about parental rights. By early January, the motion was denied based on the weight of evidence in the file. Around the same time, Veronica showed up at Noah's school. The office had been warned. I'd given them her photo the first day Noah went back and explained the situation in detail. The principal had put a note in Noah's file. The secretary knew to call me immediately if anyone unexpected tried to pick him up or contact him. When Veronica walked in during pickup time asking to see Noah, the secretary recognized her immediately. Kept her talking at the front desk while she called me from the back office. Asked Veronica to fill out a visitor form. Asked for ID. Asked her to explain her relationship to the student. Stalled for 12 minutes while I broke every speed limit between home and the school. I walked through the front doors to find her arguing with the principal in the lobby. She was insisting she had every right to see her boyfriend's son. that this was a misunderstanding, that I was the one causing problems, that she was practically Noah's stepmother, and the school had no right to keep her from checking on his welfare. The principal was holding firm, but clearly getting worn down by the performance. When she saw me walk through the door, her face went pale, just for a second. Then she recovered and put on that concerned, sympathetic expression. Hunter. Oh, good, you're here. I've been so worried about Noah. Mark's been worried too. We just wanted to make sure he's doing okay. See if there's anything we can do. You need to leave. Right now. She tried to recover. Put on that calm, reasonable voice. Look, I get that you're upset with me. I made mistakes. I was stressed. I overreacted. But that doesn't mean I don't care about Noah. If we could all just sit down and have a conversation. You threw him out of his house. You told him he wasn't wanted. And now you show up at his school acting concerned? The principal was watching this exchange with wide eyes. Two other parents in the lobby had stopped what they were doing to watch. The secretary had come out from the back office. I made a mistake, Veronica said, her voice getting a little desperate. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean, get out. If you come near him again, I'm filing for a restraining order. And I'll make sure every parent in this school knows exactly what you did to a 10-year-old boy. She looked at the principal like she expected backup. Didn't get any. The principal told her she needed to leave school property immediately, or they would call the police. She left, but she made sure to tell everyone in earshot that I was keeping a father from his son, that she was just trying to help a troubled child. The principal walked me to his office after she was gone, asked if there was anything the school needed to know. I gave him the short version. He said he'd make sure every staff member knew Veronica's face, and that she wasn't to have any contact with Noah. I filed for the restraining order the next day. Danny handled the paperwork. It took about 3 weeks of back and forth, but given the documented history and the school incident, the judge eventually granted a temporary order. Veronica was to stay away from Noah, his school, our house, and anywhere she knew he'd be. Meanwhile, Veronica and Dad's relationship was falling apart under the pressure. Mrs. Hensley mentioned she'd heard from someone at the motel that they'd been fighting constantly, that Veronica had started looking for work for the first time in years. The put-together woman who'd seemed so polished was coming apart. Turns out her whole lifestyle depended on someone else paying the bills. When that fell through, so did she. The eviction deadline hit on a Thursday. Dad hadn't moved any of his belongings, hadn't found a new apartment, hadn't arranged for storage. He'd spent the entire 30 days convinced I'd change my mind, convinced that family meant I'd eventually back down. 2 sheriff's deputies showed up at 9 a.m. to supervise the removal. Danny had arranged for a moving company to box everything and put it in a storage unit. Dad would have 60 days to claim it before it was auctioned off. The movers were professional, worked through the house room by room, boxing up clothes and dishes and furniture without wasting time. One of them asked me if I wanted anything set aside. I told him just the photo albums and anything that looked like it belonged to my mom. Everything else could go to storage. I'd taken Noah to Mrs. Hensley's house that morning, so he wouldn't have to watch, but around 9:30, he asked to come back. Said he wanted to see it happen. Said he needed to know it was really over. So I drove him back. We parked across the street and watched the movers carry out boxes and furniture. The leather couch Veronica had bought. The recliner Dad had been sitting in the night I confronted them. The bed from the master bedroom. All of it loaded into a truck bound for a storage unit that would probably never be opened. Noah just watched with this serious expression. I asked if he was okay. He said he was. I'm not sure either of us believed it. Dad showed up around 10 a.m., Veronica right behind him in her SUV. He parked at the curb and got out slowly, watching the movers with this stunned look on his face, like he still couldn't believe it was happening. Veronica stayed in her car at first. The temporary order required her to keep distance from Noah, so she parked well down the block, close enough to watch, far enough to stay out of trouble. Dad walked up to where I was standing by my car. He looked older than he had a month ago, like everything he'd done was finally catching up with him. We can still work this out. Family's more important than legal documents. Noah needs his father. Where was that 3 months ago when Noah needed you? Why do you only care about being a father now that there are consequences? He didn't have an answer. Just stood there, watching the movers carry out the last of the bedroom furniture. Veronica finally got out of her car and walked up the block toward us. She stopped at the edge of the driveway, still keeping her distance from where Noah stood across the street but close enough to talk. Hunter, you're being too emotional about this. Mark made mistakes. I made mistakes. But destroying your family over one bad night isn't the answer. One bad night? You spent months pushing a 10-year-old out of his own home. You told everyone in the family he was troubled and dangerous. That's not one bad night. That's a whole campaign. She started to respond, But something in her snapped. Maybe it was the deputies watching. Maybe it was the neighbors who'd come out to see what was happening. Maybe it was finally hitting her that she'd lost everything she'd been working toward for over a year. She started screaming about how this wasn't fair, how she'd given up everything to be with my father, how I was ruining her life over a kid who'd never liked her anyway, how she'd done nothing but try to help this family, and this was the thanks she got. One of the deputies stepped forward and warned her to calm down, or she'd be detained for disorderly conduct. She didn't calm down, kept going, getting louder, more unhinged, listing every sacrifice she'd made, every compromise, every time she'd put up with something she shouldn't have had to deal with. Dad tried to quiet her down. She shoved him away, called him useless, said she'd wasted over a year on him and had nothing to show for it, said he'd promised her the house would be hers eventually, said he'd lied about everything. That's when it came out. Dad had told Veronica the house belonged to him, said the trust was just a formality he could dissolve whenever he wanted. He'd been lying to her the entire time about what he actually owned. Veronica stared at him with genuine hatred, called him a fraud and a coward, said she couldn't believe she'd wasted her time on someone so pathetic. Then she got in her SUV and drove off, left him standing in the driveway surrounded by boxes, watching his relationship and his housing situation fall apart at the same time. The deputies asked Dad if he had somewhere to go. He gave them a motel address. They offered to follow him there. He accepted, looking more broken than I'd ever seen him. He tried one more time before getting in his truck. Is this really how you want things to end? Can you ever forgive me? You showed me who you are when things got hard. What did you expect? He drove off. The deputies followed. The movers finished loading, and then it was quiet. Noah was still watching from across the street. He walked over slowly. Is Dad gone? For now. Is he ever coming back? I don't know. That depends on whether he can become the kind of father you deserve. Noah nodded. Then he asked what we were having for dinner. I almost laughed. Kids bounce back like that. They feel everything deeply, but they also know when it's time to move on. I told him he could pick whatever he wanted. He chose tacos. Over the next few weeks, things settled into a new normal. The guardianship transfer was finalized without any complications. The CPS case was closed with a finding that I was a fit guardian, and the home was stable. Noah started at his old school again, back with his real friends. His teachers said he was adjusting well, participating in class, making up the work he'd missed. Mrs. Hensley stopped by regularly, and usually brought casseroles. She'd become like a grandmother to Noah, always there with a hug or a plate of cookies or just someone to talk to when he needed an adult who wasn't me. Having her around was one of the few good things to come out of this whole mess. Danny handled the legal cleanup and refused payment for most of his work. Said his mother would never forgive him if he charged for helping a kid who'd been wronged. I insisted on buying him dinner once a month. He accepted that compromise. We found Noah's belongings at a donation center across town. Veronica had dropped off 3 boxes of his stuff the week after she threw him out. We bought it all back for $40. I heard through Uncle Wade that Veronica had moved in with her sister in another state, that she was already looking for a new opportunity. Dad was staying in a long-term motel, working the same job, keeping his head down. He reached out through Uncle Wade a few times, testing the waters. Still not ready to really apologize. Still convinced he hadn't done anything that wrong. The family chat had gone quiet, but occasionally someone would test checking in on Noah, asking how he was doing in school, asking if he needed anything. Uncle Wade sent Noah $100 for his birthday. Aunt Cheryl mailed him books every month. About 8 months after the eviction, Dad finally called. Said he'd been doing a lot of thinking. Said he'd been going to a real support group. Said he understood now why I'd done what I did. Said he wanted to be part of Noah's life, if there was any way to make that happen. I told him that was Noah's call, not mine. Gave him Noah's email address. Said they could start with letters and see where it went. Noah got his first email 2 days later. Read it 3 times before deciding to respond. Asked me to look at it before he sent anything. It was one paragraph asking why Dad had let Veronica throw him out. Dad didn't have a good answer. Just said he'd made a terrible mistake. That he'd been so focused on feeling better after losing Mom that he forgot about his responsibilities to his sons. That there was no excuse. Noah wrote back that sorry wasn't enough yet, but maybe someday it would be. They've been talking since then. Slow progress. A lot of hard questions from Noah that Dad struggles to answer. But progress. I don't know if they'll ever have a real relationship again. Trust is a lot easier to break than it is to rebuild. But I'm staying out of it. Noah's old enough to start making his own choices about who he wants in his life. My job is just to make sure he's safe while he figures it out. Our family isn't what it used to be. Can't be. Not with mom gone and dad being who he turned out to be. But it's still family. Me and Noah, holding it together. Mrs. Hensley next door, always ready with a casserole or a listening ear. Danny checking in once a month to make sure everything's still good. The house mom left us is full of her. Her pictures on the walls, her books on the shelves, her flowers in the garden that Noah helps me take care of every weekend. And two of her sons, looking out for each other the way she would have wanted. Mom used to say that protecting the people you love sometimes means making hard calls. That family isn't really about blood. It's about who actually shows up when stuff gets hard. She was right, and I think she'd be proud. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.